Hey everybody, this is Zachary Jeans. Let's keep walking through the Bible. So today is day 339, and we are walking our way through the book of Genesis. We're definitely in the meat of it and make progress. So if you want, you can always go back and rewatch episodes. I have all the episodes up on YouTube currently. Lord willing, we'll have them all up on Rumble soon. Of course, if you're watching on Facebook, none of that matters to you. So trying to get them up on X, on Twitter, and hope you check them out there. Wherever you're at, appreciate your love, appreciate your likes, all that. Well, we are going to be in chapter 20 to start. Why don't we stop? Why don't we pray? Lord, I love you. God, thanks for your word. God, I know you hear us through your Son, Jesus Christ, through you, Holy Spirit, who live within us. God, there's so much swirling doubt and anger and frustration in this world. There's so many narratives and twisting of just straightforward what you say in your word. And some of that's unintentional by people. Some of it is intentional. God, I just pray, God, that you would help me be an adequate teacher of your word. God, that I would please you and that I would honor you and that people would get something from you from this. God, I just ask that in your holy name, Jesus. Amen. All right. Well, yeah, goodness, there are so many things going around right now in the world. I mean, suppose there always have been. But it never ceases to amaze me how many people have taken the word over the years and, they want to read in to it what they want to get out of it. So I try not to be that. I know we're all guilty of it, but let's do our best to just see what it says. So we're going to be in the ESV, chapter 20, verse 1. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negeb and lived between Kadesh and Shur. And he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech, the king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God said to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." Now Abimelech had not approached her. So he said, "Lord, will you kill an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, 'She is my sister'?" And she herself said, "He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, so that he will pray for you and you shall live. But if you do not return her, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are with you." Wow. So, again, Abraham, in trying to save his own skin, even and above all the things that he had seen the Lord do, all the times the Lord had delivered him, in a degree reproved him, he still plays this card. She's my sister. And yet we have another ruler here, Abimelech, who acts in the integrity of his heart and tells God as much in his dream. I think it's interesting. God does communicate, and God communicates to people who believe in him and people who don't. God is not limited by our constraints of our theologies. God acts as God desires. and he acts for his purposes, his glory. And oftentimes, almost always, it isn't in a judgment sense. It's even in the midst of a judging sense, he's acting, trying to get people to turn around and see truth and do right. So he even mentions here that he kept Abimelech from sinning. You're like, how can that be? He's not a believer. Is God responsible for our sins because he could stop us from sinning? Remember what Paul said. He said, the clay pot doesn't judge the one who made it, the potter. That's hard for the clay pot to hear, this clay pot. But ultimately, God holds us accountable for our actions, and yet God reserves the right to always, in and above all things, be in control. And I know that's hard for it to make sense here on earth, but I think when we stand in his presence in heaven, the way reality is, it'll make sense. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things. And the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "Why did you see that you did this thing?" Or what did you see that you did this thing? And Abraham said, "I did it because I thought there's no fear of God at all in this place. And they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'This is the kindness you must do me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother.'" So interesting note, and I had forgotten this in our earlier read through, and in a way I'm glad I had, because I probably would have dove into it in the earlier passage about him being with Pharaoh. But isn't it interesting that Sarah is in fact his half-sister? And it makes you wonder about genetics and, offspring and all of that and how that works. I tend to believe that the farther you go back in our DNA progression, right? You go back to the days of Abraham and prior to that, and I think our DNA and our whole human life was structured in it hadn't broken down yet. And we are so many generations removed that over these years, DNA and the passing on of certain traits and whatnot, we've broken down. Like systems break down over time. And it's breaking down slowly, but it's breaking down nonetheless. And so I think when Abraham and Sarah had a kid, even though they were related, and that should have caused some problems, genetically, or could have. I think this is just my speculation that because our DNA was, say, more healthy and whole back then, this is why people lived 175 years, 200 and something years, 300 years, that it didn't have as terrible consequences. Fair. Okay. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male servants and female servants and gave them to Abraham and returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, "Behold, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you." To Sarah he said, "Behold, I've given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It's a sign of your innocence in the eyes of all who are with you, and before everyone who are vindicated." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and also healed his wife and female slaves so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So note that they had been there long enough for that to arise as an issue. People weren't having kids, and Abraham, being a prophet of God, one imbued with a message and authority, he was able to pray on their behalf, and they were healed of that. The Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age at the time which God had spoken to him. Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah had bore him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh over me. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children, yet have borne him a son in his old age? Miracle, right? Just an incredible miracle. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, laughing. This is Ishmael. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac. It's pretty harsh, but that's the way things kind of jived back then, right? It's who was firstborn, and if somebody dies, then somebody assumes authority and inheritance and all that. So Sarah's concerned. And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, be not displeased because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named. And I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot, right? Bow and arrow. For she said, let me not look on the death of my child. And as she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said, what troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Up, lift up the boy, and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up. And he lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. So Ishmael and Hagar are sent away. They aren't sent with a whole bunch of money and donkeys and cattle and stuff. They're just sent away. Here's a bag of water and have a nice day. That's on Sarah. And she was not gracious to this woman nor this child. It was her idea in the beginning to give her husband a son through this sort of, here's my servant, you can have her. We'll have a kid through her, surrogate. It was her idea, this princess. And mind you, God, despite her obvious character issues here, still honors her. It's his choice of her, Sarah, and God is not going to allow even Sarah's choices here to somehow disrupt his plans to honor Abraham's name. As he said, I'm going to make a great nation through this boy, Ishmael. So Ishmael and Isaac and their various lines, they have had conflict for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, said to Abraham, God is with you in all that you do. Now, therefore, swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me or with my descendants or with my prosperity. But as I have dealt kindly with you, so you shall deal with me and with the land where you have sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. So they knew, not only from the dream, but that they've been healed. And, who knows how many other situations where they're looking at him. It's like, that guy just had a kid. He's 100 years old. She's like 90. They'd seen enough, and they knew that God was with him, like 100%. This was no just fluke. So they wanted Abraham to bless them and bless the relationship. When Abraham reproved Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized, Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, and I have not heard of it until this day. So immediately there's a little bit of conflict after they make an agreement. Kind of reminds me of, it's a very current situation, but it reminds me of when the Pac-12, collegiate conference had made their new commissioner, Kleofkov, had made a deal with the Big Ten commissioner and the Big 12 commissioner to have sort of an agreement, hey, we've all kind of looked each other in the eye and shook hands, and we're going to do right by each other. And then a year later, they had completely flipped the table on the Pac-12 and didn't honor those handshake agreements, and there was nothing to them. And next thing you know, they're having conflict, and, well, the Pac-12 was dissolved. So, I don't know. This sort of like, hey, promise me something. And then the other person like, yeah, I got you. And then the other people are like, okay, now we got this bond of trust. Let's take advantage of that. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock apart, and Abimelech said to Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs that you've set apart? Abraham said, these 7 ewe lambs you will take from my hand, and this may be a witness for me that I dug this well. Therefore, this place was called Beersheba, because there both of them swore an oath. And Beersheba means a well of 7, or a well of the oath. So he takes those ewe lambs, right? So they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, rose up and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned many days in the land of Philistines. So this is really the first notion of the Philistines. It's the first, unsettled relationship between Abraham's descendants and, well, in this case, Abraham, and the Philistines. And this will go on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And there's never, no matter what kinds of agreements are made, there's always an unsettled peace. There's always eruptions of violence, and then times of like uneasy peace. There's a time and a period during the Judges where the Philistines are in great control of the people of Israel. And various judges that God sends, prophets, will deliver them. But back here, you can see the roots. You can see the seeds of this discontent between people in Philistine and the Jewish people, the Hebrews. After these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I shall tell you. Now, this practice of child sacrifice is something that had been performed throughout the area. In fact, as far as we understand, and I've read, throughout many parts of Mesopotamia. It's the one of the core blood magic sort of sacrifices which Satan has through the worship of Baal. So this is a complete 180. This is 100% test of Abraham's belief in who God is. It is a test of his faith to somehow take this promised child who was given to him when he's the age of 100 and to sacrifice him to the Lord. We know from the book of Hebrews, if you go over to Hebrews, you can read that Abraham's whole point of view during this passage is that he just thought that, God was able to save, Isaac from this order of sacrifice that God had given. God was able to save. So, but we'll read how it portrays itself here in Genesis without too much digging into Hebrews. So Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him, and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Then Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and will worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son. So they go hauling off up onto the top of this mountain or this hill of Moriah, and leaves the 2 servants and the donkey. They'd gone trekking out there, and he's just got his young son, and Abraham's he's an old man, and they go on up there. And Abraham took the wood and the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac, his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went both of them together. And Isaac said to his father, Abraham, my father. And he said, here I am, son. He said, behold, fire and the wood. Where's the lamb for the burnt offering? It's a good question, right? Isaac's smelling this out. He's like, this is not like the sacrifices we've done in the past, right? Abraham said, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. And there's the faith, right? There's the faith that Hebrews goes into in describing what Abraham was hoping. When they came to the place which God had told him, Abraham built the altar there and laid the wood in order and bound his son Isaac, laid him up on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. He said, here am I. He said, do not lay your hand on the boy or do anything against him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Wow. What a scene. I mean, it doesn't say tears were coming down his eyes, but I just got to imagine that Abraham, everything that this guy's been through, the promise of his son, how much he loves that kid. There's no more Ishmael. He's gone. He's got no more kids. This is his kid. This is the promise. This is the one who is, the son is laughter. It's the son that he had wanted from his wife, Sarah, who was this incredibly beautiful woman, even in her 90s, that other kings wanted to take. This woman he loves and his kid, and he is being told to do something he knows is wrong, but is right because the Lord told him to. He walks on up that mountain. He's like, okay, Lord, I'm going up there. And then he's literally got him laid out. Now, mind you, Isaac is a willing participant. He's willing, okay, Father, Like, he's willing to let the Lord do what the Lord's going to do through his dad. Just the incredible trust and faith that's going on here. And the tears that was probably just coming down his face, just like, not, just shaking, not wanting to do it. At least that's how I imagine this. There's so many times which God leads you down a path, and, you know, at the end of that faith walk, he'll lead you on up a mountain. He's like, going up that mountain. You're like, God, I don't understand. Why am I going up that mountain? Doesn't make any sense to me. But okay, I'm going up that mountain. You get on up there, and he's like, okay, now turn to the left. And that's what happens here. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, the Lord will provide. The Lord will provide. The Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mount of the Lord it shall be provided. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven, and he said, By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. And I will surely multiply your offspring as the stars of heaven and as the sand that is on the seashore. Your offspring shall possess the gate of his enemies, and in your offspring shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham lived in Beersheba. Now after these things it was told to Abraham, behold, Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz, his firstborn, Buz, his brother Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel, father of Rebekah, and that'll be Isaac's wife. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother. Moreover, his concubine, whose name was Reumah, bore Teba, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Sarah lived 127 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah, and Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. And Hebron will come up in the future. That's where the King David first had the city of God. So we have seen both Hebron, and we've also seen Salem with Melchizedek, which is the first name of Jerusalem. Abraham rose up from her before his dead, and he said to the Hittites, I'm a sojourner and foreigner among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, and that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my lord, your prince of God among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will withhold from you his tomb to hinder you from burying your dead. And Abraham rose and he bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land. And he said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat for me Ephron, the son of Zohar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns. It is at the end of his field for the full price. Let him give it to me in your presence as property for a burying place. Now note the way in which this negotiation goes. Abraham is grieving the loss of his wife. 127 years old she lived. And he wants to bury her. He is a visitor. He's a sojourner. He does not own. He's dwelling in tents, right? And he offers the Hittites, he asks of them that he could bury his dead and, buy a piece of land. And they're like, hey, why don't you just bury her in one of our nicest tombs? We won't sell you anything. and we'll give it to you. And he's like, no, that's not quite how I want this to go. I want to own the place in which I bury the ones I love. So it's super important to him. And so then he's like, hey, humbly request that this particular guy has this cave that he knows about. Everyone knows about it. Like, I'd like to have that. I'd like to buy that. And mind you, I think that there's probably something here too about the tombs and the worship of other gods and idols and perhaps spells or enchantments, things which people did back then, people do today, but that they had done to their tombs, right? And also it's probably a sign of, it's probably kind of like, it could be seen as, I think, a sign of like, hey, we have this great man of God. We have his wife in one of our tombs. It's like this incredible honor and sort of, you know, declarative value to society. Okay. So, but he doesn't want that. He wants to buy something. He wants a cave, right? Where he can bury his dead, and it doesn't have any of that. So now Ephron was sitting among the Hittites, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites, of all who went in at the gate of his city, no, my lord, hear me. I give you the field. I give you the cave that is in it. In the sight of the sons of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed down before the people of the land. He said to Ephron in the hearing of the people and of all the land, but if you will hear me, I give the price of the field, accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Abraham doesn't want to accept or make a sacrifice for free. This will flow all the way down through his descendants. King David absolutely wants to pay for his honorable deeds, is essentially it, right? Whether it's an act of worship, a sacrifice, or a doing of something that's to keep in line with God's ways, right? He wants to make sure that he is the one that is offering that. So he comes back, and he also doesn't want Ephron to have anything over him. Ephron answered Abraham, my lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver according to the weights current among the merchants. So the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which was to the east of Mamre, remember the oaks of Mamre? The field with the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field throughout its whole area was made over to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites, before all who went in and at the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave in the field of Machpelah, east of Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave that is in it were made over to Abraham as property for a burying place by the Hittites. Yeah. Burying ones we love. It's a whole thing, you know. We buried my dad, excuse me, a couple of years ago, up at Mount Scott, and they had a whole military ceremony. He'd served in Vietnam, and at Fort Hood, as he would always say, at that time, the largest post or military base in the world. I believe he said it hosted 2.5 divisions of the military at the time. And anyway, so my dad served 4 years, got out, had life, whatever. He passed away here a couple of years ago. And this is in the aftermath of COVID. COVID stuff was still going on. So wasn't a huge group of us that were able to go up there, but I had this wonderful ceremony. They did the, I don't remember if it's a 21 gun salute or which number of gun salute it was, but veterans were up there, handed the flag over, folded flag to my stepmom. I'm really glad my son was there and able to really experience something like this. And we buried him. He's entombed, his ashes, and yeah. Some people love to go to graves. For me, I'm not a grave guy. Like my honoring of my dad, I have a couple pairs of his shoes. I wear them every day. I have a few pictures which you can't see that are kind of up on that bookshelf, and I think about them. But burying our dead is a big deal, and we want to honor them, and we want to honor their lives. And Abraham deeply loved his wife of 127 years she lived. I mean, he wasn't married to her that long, but a long time, and they've been through a lot. So yeah, if you're having to bury someone or you buried someone recently, my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you. All right, well, hey, we're gonna keep walking. So tomorrow, day 340. Until then, God bless you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.